Many boats seem to be using a trolling motor, but they all seem to be open boats. Centre consoles, side consoles, open dory vessels. But my craft is a 4.5 metre half cabin, and some problems were immediately apparent. Essentially, the bow rail would be in the road, preventing deployment. And where would the shaft and head unit lay when stowed? I will show you what I mean and the solutions I came up with. Now this is my boat. It's a 4.5 metre half cabin, made back in the 80s, but very seaworthy and very strong. Now what I have done here is I've made a dummy using a piece of broomstick and a couple of containers and some masking tape, showing where I think my trolling motor is going to sit when it is stowed. Now the first thing you can see is that the bow rail is certainly preventing it being deployed. Initially I thought it might be possible to just cut out this middle section, which will enable deployment, but I'm quite certain that the remaining sections would not have any substantial strength and could even be dangerous. So the bow rail, as it sits now, will just have to go, and I'm going to replace it with something that will do the job. As well, more alert viewers will see that the head of the unit is going to protrude beyond the gunnels, and this will be a hazard and mean it could easily be damaged in transit. But I do have a solution for that as well, which I will go into later date. Today's job is to remove the old bow rail, because as we saw, it prevents the deployment of the new trolling motor, which has arrived. This job will probably take longer than I'd hoped, because the old bow rail is bolted through the deck, the front deck, and unfortunately, as expected, all the bolts came undone easily except this one, which I'm going to have to cut off using a reciprocating saw. But as well as that, I applied a very good sealant adhesive underneath this section of the bow rail, and it's so good I'm going to have to cut it out using a snap blade knife for its removal. At this stage, I've also removed the old front hatch. We're going to modify it so instead of opening upwards, it'll open sideways, which will make access to the new trolling motor much easier. Managed to remove the old bow rail, and the task was just as hard as I expected it was going to be, but mainly because the sealant I'd used under two sections of it was just so strong. I thought I was going to have to jackhammer it off. The product I use is called Soodle Fix-All, and I'd recommend it for any sealing and sticking tasks involved with the boat. Now today's job is going to be to make a timber base plate, which I will bolt through the front deck and to which I will attach the new trolling motor, which, as I said, it has arrived and it's sitting in its box. Installation is progressing nicely. I've now constructed a base plate for the trolling motor out of a piece of pine, a piece of treated pine, which is 190 millimeters wide and 35 millimeters thick. I suppose I would have liked to have used a piece of treated hardwood, something like Quilla, for the task, but I'm sure my treated pine will far exceed the strength requirements for the trolling motor to perform admirably. Today I'm going to sand down my base plate and then paint it using nothing special to paint it, just some exterior white water-based house paint. Then I'll be able to bolt the base plate through the fiberglass deck. Well, I've now painted my piece of F7 treated pine, which I'm using as a base for the trolling motor. But one thing I've found now is that when I locate the base so it is flush with the deck where I intend to bolt it to the deck, right in this section, I find up here on the bow itself it's a little bit high. There's a gap of about 20 mils. At first I considered I would raise the bow using fiberglass, which can be a bit messy, but now I'm going to use initially a piece of hardwood which will fill up this gap, meaning that I can bolt the base through the deck and it'll be flush and strong. Raising it also ensures that my base is sitting horizontally, which is important and essential for the correct operation and running of my trolling motor. The piece of hardwood and the piece of rubber, and you can see it there at the front of my base. And now as I come down the back again, you can see when I come in a little bit closer, that looks a lot better. My base is now sitting flush and it'll bolt through the foredeck securely and with all the strength I'm going to need. How will this spacer be attached to the deck or to my base? Not sure. Might just screw it all to the base. That should do the trick. Here we are back at the base plate once again, and as you can see, I've now attached the base plate to the deck using a small temporary bracket. Tomorrow we intend to unbox the trolling motor and lift it up onto the base plate and see where it needs to sit. I'm spending a fair bit of time to ensure that the base plate is just exactly where it needs to be, as I feel it's absolutely essential I locate it in the right spot and the right way for the trolling motor to do its job efficiently.